executive director of Priests for Life. I also co-founded the Silent No More Awareness Campaign, the largest mobilization of mothers, fathers, grandparents, siblings who have lost a child to abortion after being healed, deeply regret it, and speak publicly. Well, today's program is going to be a very serious topic. It's about abortion and suicide, and there's been some late research that just emerged. And joining me today is our Director of Communication and Chief Researcher here at Priests for Life is Leslie Palma. Welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me.
And thanks for all the great research. And of course, we know a good friend of our ministries, Dr. David Reardon, who also has been researching the effects of abortion for decades, was the one who came across this new study. So why don't you kind of give us your overview of it?
All right. Well, it's a study of more than 1.2 million pregnancy outcomes in Quebec, Canada, which is interesting because in Canada, they love abortion. So they can actually do research like this, where we can't in the United States. Confirms that psychiatric hospitalization is more than twice as likely to occur after induced abortions than after live births. The rates of hospitalization were especially higher for substance abuse disorders and suicide attempts. So women who have abortions more often have substance abuse disorders and attempt suicide.
Unbelievable. And see, we've known all along that there's a direct correlation between abortion and this, obviously, depression. They abuse drugs and alcohol to numb the pain they're feeling. They feel like they can't. Well, if society is saying have an abortion today, go back to school and work tomorrow, no big deal. Right, women's health, they're not feeling that way. Right. They think there's something wrong with themselves. Right.
Yep. Exactly.
And this study is basically backing it up that they have psychiatric admissions, right, into psychiatric settings and hospitals.
Yes.
Now, you also understand that up in Canada, there are a handful of freestanding abortion clinics, but a lot of the abortions in Canada are done really under their socialized medicine in hospitals too. You know, so it's a real combination.
Right. Yep. Government funded.
Government funded.
Yes.
100%.
Yes.
So I'm glad to see this surgery because the study, because we know this is what happens. Dr. Teresa Burke of Rachel's Vineyard, I mean, she has been dealing with this topic in her counseling and Rachel's Vineyard of people coming and saying, I tried to commit suicide. And in fact, with the Silent No More Awareness campaign, if you go to our website, abortiontestimony.com, if you click off suicide and abortion, now these are people obviously who didn't kill themselves, but they tried to, or they felt Teresa Burke calls it suicidal ideation. Right. They had that feelings, but they all start with saying, I was depressed. They were abusing either alcohol or drugs to numb the pain they felt. And I'd like to just share one testimony here of like a whole bunch of them that are up there, and I challenge you to go read them. But this one is very interesting. Each testimony has like a caption at the top, and this comes from Denise, and she's from Missouri here in the United States. And she said, I had an abortion because I was young, and I was a very ambitious African American. So let me just read a little bit of this. She said, I had an abortion because I was young, ambitious, and I was the first generation in my family to go to college. And she said, married, and my family looked up to me because I had chosen educational goals and was successful. My mother shamed me with my first pregnancy prior to getting married, and I was a pregnant bride. My husband did not have much income. I wanted to finish college. My mother had a lot of influence that another baby was an inconvenience to my goals and my success. I had severe postpartum depression after my first child, so much so that I tried to end my life. I did get help with my mental health and family support with my daughter. So then she goes on to say how she graduated the graduate school. She did this, that, and the other thing. But then she went on to have an abortion. And basically, what she says here is, I was informed of the procedure and I knew, but she said, to this day, I can still hear the suction noise during that procedure, and I hate it. I can't go to the dentist to this day because the sound is the same. She said, she said part of the problem was that she said, she wasn't given enough information. And then here she goes on to say, as time went on, after the third abortion, I was divorced within 6 months. I came terribly overdosed 3 times on drugs. And she said, and I basically tried to kill myself. And by this time, her daughter was 8 years old.
Oh,
yeah. So she had these multiple abortions because it kept coming back to her that this is going to affect your career. This is going to affect your goals in life. You can't afford to have any more kids. You got the one, that's it.
Yeah.
And so now her daughter is 7, 8 years old. Most mothers, they want to be mother hens and protect their children. Yet her depression was so bad and her abuse of drugs, to numb her pain, that she was contemplating suicide.
Yeah.
Okay, so she goes on to say she eventually got help, mental help and counseling, and she eventually went on an abortion recovery program. But the point of the story is what this research is saying, that mental health is a severe problem with abortion.
With abortions, yeah. And it's interesting, she's had 3 abortions. It says the study also observed that the risk of psychiatric treatment increased with the number of abortions women experienced. And we know that, I think it's something like half of women who have abortions have already had one.
Exactly. So repeat abortion factor. In fact, one of the testimonies that's on our site, I distinctly remember it because I was there when she gave her testimony. And she not only tried to kill herself once, but twice.
Oh, wow.
First, she said the first time was the gun jammed. So she was trying to shoot herself. But she said the gun jammed. Then she tried and she consumed 30 Haladols, which should have been enough to kill a horse, and didn't kill her. And she ended up in the emergency room and then in a hospital, and then she sought help. But what if the gun didn't jam?
Yeah.
She would have been another suicide, right?
Yep.
And of course, there's a very sad case, which I think we have a video clip of to show. And the story here, brothers and sisters, this was a girl who came from a very wealthy family, well-to-do, so money was not an issue. She was in college, and her family came from Pennsylvania, and they owned, they were in like the supermarket industry, all right? And so she had money and means and a family that would have supported this pregnancy. So let's take a look of this video her family has put together, and they have a foundation to raise awareness about the suicide of their daughter. So let's take a look.
Take me to the docks, there's a ship without a name, and it's sailing to the middle of the sea. Water that is deeper than anything you've ever seen. Jump right in and swim until you're free. I will remember your face. Money came like rain to your hands while you were waiting for that cold old promise to appear. People in the churches started singing about their heads. You said, my God is a good God and He cares. I will remember your face. Still in love with that place. When the stars are the only things we share, will you be there?
Wow, very powerful. And Dr. Teresa Burke of Rachel's Vineyard ended up counseling her dad and the family once they found out about the abortion. They didn't know about it. I mean,
Yeah.
she
She didn't tell anyone.
didn't tell anyone,
Yeah.
except apparently one of her friends knew.
Mhm.
And they found, the suicide note and all this. And I mean, it's very tragic because he was a family of means. He said, we would have supported her in this pregnancy. We
Yeah,
would have
yeah.
helped her.
Of course.
And they've been devastated about it.
Yeah.
I mean, and like I said, it's not the only case. There's plenty of testimonies on our website, but those girls luckily got help.
Mhm.
And they didn't end up being a statistic like Stacey Zally,
Right.
which is very, very sad. But that's why the parents started this foundation.
Mhm.
They wanted to raise awareness of the connection
Mhm.
between abortion and mental health problems. And in many cases, then they end up in suicide.
Yeah.
Are there any other factors there?
Yeah, well, I wanted to say that this study, this Canadian study, it made allowances for women with prior mental health issues, and found that even among those who didn't have prior mental health issues, the psychiatric admissions were greatly increased. And it just reminded me of something. We had a wonderful friend, Nancy Tanner.
Right.
She was part of Silent No More. She was courageous. She would stand outside the Senate building all by herself with her sign, "I regret my abortion." The BBC wanted to interview somebody who'd had an abortion, and they put her on with another woman who, had an abortion and was fine, and they talked to Nancy. And they actually suggested and Nancy was telling all the things that happened to her after her abortion, how she, just declined and was just, not herself anymore. And they actually said, well, perhaps you had a prior mental health issue. So they were saying, well, you were crazy anyway.
Right. Yeah, you were crazy. So that's why now you're crazier.
Yeah. And that's that's why, first of all, you're not reading the story in the New York Times or the Washington Post or anywhere because they're ignoring it.
Right.
But places that they are saying it says the idea that abortion may be linked to mental health problems has long been a subject of controversy. On the one hand, nearly every study on the topic has revealed higher rates of mental illness among at least a subset of women who have abortions. But abortion advocates have long insisted that they were already nuts and the abortion, didn't really affect that one way or another.
Right. And we know the exact opposite.
Yeah.
And when you think about it, there's about 24 abortion recovery programs here in the United States alone.
Mhm.
And Rachel's Vineyard, of course, is just one of them. And they all say these women are coming in depressed and until they're seeking help.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, the advice I would have to somebody is it's very common, especially with college girls.
Mhm.
If suddenly their grades are dropping,
Mhm.
they seem disinterested in their classes, or they say they want to quit and come home.
Mhm.
It's like a red alert, ding, ding.
Right.
There's something going on there.
Yep.
Please take them for counseling, because maybe they're not going to tell you that they had an abortion when they were at school.
Right. Right.
But if they get them into counseling to say, you just don't seem the same. Why don't we go for counseling?
Mhm.
It will come out then, as long as it's a good Christian counselor
Right, yeah,
and not
right.
a secular one,
Yeah.
because they will not say anything about abortion.
Right. Yep.
Unfortunately. So, I just wanted to raise awareness about this because, like we said, so much, everything in the United States, at least, and the Canada is the same way, everything about abortion is supposed to be positive.
Yep.
The media will never report anything.
Yep.
And now here in the Zally's case, this was a very affluent family in
Mhm.
Pennsylvania. They owned a chain of supermarkets, and yet they couldn't even get their story out.
Wow.
Imagine, in the local papers.
Wow.
And they wanted it. They wanted it to be like a warning.
Yeah.
Look what happened to our daughter. Don't let it happen to your
Yes.
daughter.
Mhm.
And it was very difficult because abortion is like the white elephant in the room. We can't talk about
We
it.
can't talk
And nothing
about it.
negative.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Well, that was a great study. If people want to refer to that, is there a place they go to if they?
He probably has it on his website, which is elliotinstitute.org. That's ELLIOT institute.org.
Okay, and that's
That's
Dr. David Reardon. We
Yep.
want to thank him for always
Yes.
finding the latest research for us,
Yes.
which, always shows abortion, always bad for the baby, always bad for the mother and father too. So,
Mhm.
and brothers and sisters, in closing, if you know someone who's hurting, there is help available. Simple website to go to, abortionforgiveness.com. You put in your zip code and you will see where the nearest abortion recovery program. We even have a tab there for international. So our Canadian brothers and sisters and people all over the world. Rachel's Vineyard is the largest abortion recovery program in over 75 countries, translated in over 24 languages. So there's plenty of help. The sad thing is a lot of people don't know about it. Be ambassadors of the truth, support, and go to abortionforgiveness.com. Spread the word, because you know what? you could be saving a life today. This is Janet Morana and Leslie Palma. Thanks for joining us. Until next time, God